BIM is better. So these advantages are starting to appear. This is what we should have been doing, right? The nurse immediately knows the value of, she understands the space, she can interpret all of the things. So why are we dealing with PDFs and 2D drawings and Excel spreadsheets and stupid text, all disconnected, when we could have a little model of that space, right? This is an automated schedule from that same BIM model, right? And that's what we should have got, right? That room should have come in that little file and it was a model as rendered above it. It's possible now, it's possible, absolutely. Actually, it is possible because there it is, it's been done. Why aren't the health building guidelines in model format? And for those who don't know IFC, it's the open standard for sharing models. So, what next? There's an economic argument of the value of using BIM as a national productivity gain, a very significant one. The government looks like it will, the Commonwealth government looks like it will endorse it very strongly and back it with some resourcing. We all think, I think, in this room, that BIM is the best way to go. But look at those challenges that we have. A culture change, significant technical barriers. We will not go much further without running into a roadblock in the whole process. So buildingSMART at the MESH conference, which I've just mentioned before, proposes a national program. A national program so that we get a common understanding across the whole of the construction sector, not just one part of it. The objective is to make this something that the whole of the industry adopts. We become internationally competitive. Remember, what we're doing in Australia is just part of a larger change going on across all the construction economies around the world. If Northern Europe has been in the vanguard of this and been doing it since the 2000s, America is in huge progress over it at the moment. They're ahead of us, but only marginally so. And Australia has a very good reputation of taking technology and using it powerfully and effectively. But this is not a question of individual passion or usage. We've got to make this a national thing so that we really do address these issues across. Would we leave it that we get a different set of BIM model guidelines across every client group in Australia? Will Dexus have a guideline? Will Investor have a guideline? Will Health New South Wales have a guideline? Will Police Queensland have another guideline? Can you imagine it? It is absolutely appalling. And can you imagine your Leightons working in Abu Dhabi? And your consultant team that you've sourced from Australia is working with a construction company that comes from the UK and has subcontractors in the US. And you think that your BIM technology that you're going to use here is compatible with that? Will it be? Should it be? Those are the issues. I believe it should be. There's a very strong movement internationally in the buildingSMART chapters that we should have an international standard for this. Why are we arguing about nuts and bolts when we want to get on with designing and improving the quality of the built environment? This is a technical thing that has to be resolved nationally and internationally. So, common BIM guidelines. If you're familiar with the CRC for Construction Innovation, they published a very good founding step. There's a lot of very good material that sources almost every international effort going on, coming from Finland, Norway, the US, and other places. It's not as though we don't have something good to start from. We do. And there are lots of client groups that are starting to issue these. So, but this requires that we talk to government agencies that procure, industry and professional standards organisations. Who are the bodies that should be represented in this? Should the Australian Building Codes Board be in here? Absolutely. They control the way building regulations are done, and we've got to have that input. Product information. This, I think, is the #1 issue. We must have some development here. I've been trying to get BPIC, the Building Product Innovation Council, engaged in this whole process. I've been trying that for 3 years. I tried to get them to sponsor the BIM study report. I thought because BlueScope Steel were a sponsor, I might get BPIC as an industry organisation to take a proactive role. Not so, they weren't interested. But BPIC are very interested today because they've had a $2.5 million life cycle inventory project, which has just been shunted around Australia as we speak. It was been in Brisbane, it's been in Sydney, it was in Perth just a couple of days ago, it's in Hobart I think today. I'm not sure whether it's been here in Melbourne, it probably has. Oh yes it has, because Phil McNeil from SPH represented buildingSMART as a BIM expert, speaking to product manufacturers about why BIM was so important and why we needed BIM data. So we need to get the quality of data that's associated with that image. The image is useless without the data. We want to know the geometric options in that window split. We want to know the glass performance. We want to know the emissivity. Why do we want to know that? Because if you put that or a generic object of that type in your building model, and you then, as an architect, approach your thermal analysis engineer and say, I want a budget thermal analysis indicator at the moment, and you send him your BIM model, and you send him all that BIM model with products in it, but no product data. So he has to go and find all that performance information, performance data, from scratch. You might use IES, an incredibly powerful tool, but all of the information about the products and the wall types is all done manually, and we've got an intelligent building model with all of that potential information. We're not going to be productive if we just rely on a simple building model without strong product data. The little chart at the end here is an analysis result from LCA Design. It shows 9 objectives: embodied water, carbon dioxide emission, greenhouse gas turnover, all of the classic sustainability indices. We should be able to calculate that automatically from the building model that's come from the architect or the design team. Why not? That's what this whole technology is about. So this is a very important challenge, and BPIC have seen the opportunity. They've done the life cycle inventory assessment. It's a very sophisticated database being maintained by the Australian Life Cycle Assessment Society, based here in Melbourne. Roger Woodard, I think it is. But they haven't got moved over to the life cycle assessment or life cycle impact. That is based on products. The data at the moment is on the materials, the metal, the board, the things, the glass. But the window as a product has to get an aggregated index, which is its sustainability index. And to do that, you've got to have the geometry of the object. Hey presto, that's what we want in our BIM models. So I think you'll find that the building product manufacturers in Australia over the next 6 months will start something positive in this regard. And we've got to guide them. That's you and your professional organisations and the experts in our industry have to guide them as to what properties are important, how we do it. What are the 5 key properties? Material type, strength, thermal performance, sustainability, and acoustics. Those 5 key areas apply to so many building elements. And how much of that in your building model at the moment can you actually access? Probably only the building type, the material type. So we've got a long way to go. Compliance and certification. Everyone thinks, I think at the moment, that BIM is to do with a single building. But BIM is actually part of our urban setting. Sustainability is looking at larger aggregations of buildings and trying to come up with more sustainable outcomes. If we're going to have a zero carbon economy, if we're going to have low greenhouse gas emission building design, we have to be able to assess it much more effectively, and we have to be able to respond to this issue. So why can't we submit a building model to our authorities and get an automated expert system result? Both of those shots there are from a a research project done at the University of New South Wales called Urban IT. We've modelled a whole part of Green Square. It has over 2,000 lots. The cadastre is properly represented in GIS space. In this building model, you can see already the performance types of the wall elements. We've put that into a model server. We've written a script that checks it against the clauses of the New South Wales basics. It is not a hypothetical thing. It is readily achievable. But it's only achievable if government, agencies that control compliance, industry organisations that control scientific standards, and users who can build models well can actually do it. Singapore's had a building code checker since 2004. These are operational systems, but we've got a long way to go. Information exchange. This is another massive thing. If we're going to share information across the industry, we basically have to have a common language. We can't rely on a single proprietary format. Everyone thinks that's okay. That's okay in your design team environment. It's not okay in an industry environment. I like to give the example of going to Ushuaia in the south of Chile. We're just about to go off to Antarctica. We go up to a hole in the wall, we put our credit card in, and hey presto, we get local cash. How can that be possible across such a big international setting? It's only possible because we have a common standard for financial transactions. We take it for granted that that flexibility and ease of use is automatic. Why don't we take it for granted that we should have the same facility in the construction sector? If we get a bit of product data, or if we get a model from someone, if we get a structural detailing model, we should be able to import it into our environment, however proprietary that is. Everyone can choose their own system. They choose it because they believe the product's a high quality product. But getting the data in it and out of it should be open. The Commonwealth Government has legislated since 2008 for open access to information. It is inconceivable that government and agencies will allow proprietary formats for information model exchange. And buildingSMART internationally has developed a very powerful, the only standard in the world for representing open exchange of building information. A very sophisticated development.